Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
And this is Estela.
And welcome to
Cafecito
and Crime. Today, we will be having an episode brought to you by Estela.
Me.
So, how are you? How you been? How's your week?
Yeah, it's been a week, you know.
It's been a week.
It's like we're over the holidays have passed. Everything has passed now.
Yeah, and like
now I have to get back to normal.
Yeah, like
to the normal routine.
What are we supposed to do? Like, so at work, like I've been trying to keep up with decorating because I feel like I don't know if I'm the only one or if everybody is like that. Like, I feel like when you decorate your surrounding where you work, it makes you feel like, oh, I want to go to work. Yeah. You know, I feel comfortable or whatever it is. I feel like more homey.
Yeah.
You know, cozy. And at my job, unfortunately, we don't have a desk set for us. So I've been moving around desk, and one week I'm here, 1 week I'm there, whatever.
You're desk hopping.
Yeah. So I've been trying to decorate. We have like a billboard, and then we've been trying to decorate.
You've always done that. Like, that's just,
I know.
You always do that.
That's my deal.
Yeah.
And
like, who's going to decorate for whose birthday? Barbie. Yeah. Who's going to decorate for fucking, who's going to organize the offices? Fucking, whatever. What do you guys organized? I
don't know. We did potlucks and stuff like that. But anyway,
stuff. You do all that stuff.
I try. Like, I feel like more or less, you know, I know sometimes it's our job and we're not always in the best job in the whole time, but you know what? It's our job and we go there every day. Might as well,
make it somewhere you want to go to.
So I started doing that, and then I can't wait because, you know, it's almost February, so you get to decorate for...
it's not almost February.
It is. To me, in my mind, it's
at the February. Stores, it's fucking February now.
Yeah. So, you know, we've been having our little personal tree here for
we should probably take a picture
year.
of the tree and post it on Instagram.
We said that last time and we never did it.
No, we did do it, I think.
Now it has Harry Potter's on it.
So it's HP, pero las luces no sirven, the lights.
No, sí sirven, pero
no tienen baterías.
No tienen baterías. You know, when you buy a toy, nunca le pones baterías. My son has been having a toy my dad bought him y no tiene baterías.
How long has it been?
It's been since Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, it's not that long.
It's not that long. So todavía tengo tiempo.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, and what about Estela has already informed me about the freeze. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit cold.
A little bit of coldness. Hey, today when I came over this morning, I mean, when I got into my car, there was ice on it. Yeah, it was glistening. Very Edward Cullen in Twilight. I took a picture. I'll send it to you. Pero es que I'm so excited. I know a lot of people are not excited, but I am excited because there's going to be a freeze next week here in Houston.
I think that we're excited because we like cold. Like, we both are pretty big on cold.
It's going to get cold. I think... Maybe low. I think the lowest is 17 degrees. I think that it's going to get high 30 or something.
High 30. Yeah, but in Dallas, it's going to be like 9.
Yeah.
And then, like, in the upper people, like, I don't know where they're like going to be negative 30.
I know when the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dolphins play, it's going to be like, I don't know how many degrees below zero.
Dude.
Ya perdieron los pinche Dolphins because they're used to fucking Florida weather.
Exactly.
Ya perdieron.
No, but we're not going to put that mojo on them. But
I mean, may the best team win. Just saying.
But the Bills actually are paying people $20 an hour
to shovel
snow out of the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. So how much snow is accumulated in the stadium?
I saw a picture. I think ESPN posted it on Instagram. Of like everything, like, or just like a panoramic picture of the stadium.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
I know.
That is so crazy to me. Well, if y'all don't know this about us, fun fact number 85,000 of Barbie and Estela, we do love sports. We love football. Yeah. And so we watch football all the time. All the teams we
just like to have the games. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. My mother-in-law, okay, this lady, like, this is so crazy because my mother-in-law is the biggest football fan in the whole world.
And I don't think people would notice when they look at mom.
Yeah, like that. My mother-in-law is like the little Mexican lady that she's like, oh, ¿cómo estás? Yeah. It's like that kind of lady. And she's so sweet. And she's the most amazing person I've ever met in my whole life. And guess what? She will remember the team's players' names
from like back in the day.
Yeah, she'll remember who won that day. She is like it
Mom remembers a whole bunch of random ass shit.
Yeah, like she'll remember phone numbers from back when we had like house phones.
She remembers like birthdays from people that, you know, when she was growing up in Mexico and stuff. I'm like, Mom,
how do
you haven't seen this person in like...
Oh, I should be like, today's so-and-so's birthday. I'm like we haven't seen them in like... I'm like, okay. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started on our case. So where are we going today?
Okay, so for today's case, we are going to Canada. Speaking of cold.
Canada. I wonder. I didn't even look to see how cold Canada was going to be.
I don't know how I ended up something about on Instagram, and this girl, she lived in Alberta. Mm-hmm. Which is actually where we're going to go to. That's for today's case. And the degrees, well, they have like Celsius, and like, we do Fahrenheit. Yeah. But she was like, I don't know what part of Alberta she lived in or if she said it, but I'm sure there were Eskimos.
Stop.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm exaggerating. But she was fully just like her. I think you could only see her eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness. But
all right. So if you would like to come with us to Alberta, Canada, grab your cafecitos.
And let's get started. Now, like I just said, we're going to, specifically in Canada, Medicine Hat. That's the city.
Not Medicine Hat.
Medicine Hat.
Like así se escribe, como medicina.
Medicina.
Gorra de medicina.
Yeah, Medicine Hat.
O gorra. O gorro. Okay.
O gorra.
Gorro.
Cachucha?
Cachucha? I don't know.
Anyway. And the fun, random, interesting fact about Medicine Hat is that it is home to the world's tallest teepee.
Oh.
Yeah.
A teepee in Canada? Teepee.
Yeah. Wait, hold up.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. It says Sammy's teepee stands 215 feet tall and 160 feet wide.
What the fuck? That's a huge ass teepee.
Yes. Now, it was originally located in Calgary, which is kind of like, I think, the biggest city in Alberta.
Yeah.
And it was a leftover from the... Wow.
From the wow?
No. I think it's 1988 Winter Olympics, but I wrote 11988. Girl,
that's a lot of nines in the life.
11,988 Winter Olympics. So that was a leftover from that, and it was actually moved to Medicine Hat in 1991.
They actually picked up the whole ass teepee.
I don't know how they... I mean, people move like fucking buildings and stuff. So
I know,
I'm sure
I
TP's
saw
not that bad.
That they moved houses before, like 1910 houses and shit. And I'm like, just move the whole thing. Like, okay, I guess it doesn't. I mean, I guess to me it's a big deal, but everybody else they're probably like,
working
like,
in that field.
We can move TPs whatever any day.
Yeah. Also, Medicine Hat is one of the sunniest, if not the sunniest, city in Canada. With 330 days of sunshine a year.
Yay!
And I think maybe if there is one sunnier city than Medicine Hat is Calgary, which is like almost 3 hours away. So, but they're both in Alberta. So yeah. So those are the facts.
Another 100,000 million fun fact of Estela, she would love to live in Canada.
Oh yeah,
but she's not going because then I'm gonna have to leave with her.
And I've never been to Calgary, but I've flown into Calgary. But
yeah, I've never been anywhere. I only stay in Houston.
We went to California.
Yeah, oh yeah. But that was like one time. But anyway, yeah. So her lifelong dream is to move to Canada, and she's not going anywhere because I will beat the shit out of her.
Babosa. But anyways, so this case, it's crazy.
I mean, they're all crazy.
And we've heard about, child killers, child killers. Like we've had, we just did Sharon Carr and, Mary Bell or child killers that killed.
And Nima Carter last week.
No, but she's not a killer. Somebody killed her.
Killed her.
Oh, well, the Jack.
Well, I mean, Jacqueline she was 16. So technically she was a child killer.
But Jasmine was 12 in this case.
That's my daughter's age, dude.
Yes.
Oh, hell no.
She was 12 at that time. And yeah, we've had other kids that killed their family, but they weren't 12 at the time that they planned the murder and participated in the murder of their family.
Not plan.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, let's.
Yeah, and it was. We'll get there. Okay, so yeah, so that's why
I keep an eye on my daughter? No, because sometimes she be coming in the room and I'll be like, girl.
Well, it was like her little brother was 8, so those are literally the ages of your kids. My kids are 12 and 8.
Yeah, but I could probably see my son more likely than my daughter because my daughter, she's scared of flies. Yeah. So I don't know.
And your son does not give a fuck.
No, he does not. And he's also a very intelligent guy. So he scares me. His mind scares me sometimes.
He be talking about perhaps. I'm like...
Perhaps. Okay.
I'm like, where'd you get that word? I don't even use that word. Maybe I should.
perhaps we should start on this case.
Yes. Okay. So we'll begin with the Richardson family. Marc and Debra were the parents, and they specifically overcame a lot in their life. They both struggled with substance abuse in their younger years and were able to recognize that they had a problem and got help. So we'll begin. Obviously, they didn't know each other at the time when they were struggling, but they met afterwards. But we'll begin with Marc, who was born in 1964 and was a wild child in his younger years. As I just mentioned, he had a substance abuse and entered a 12-step rehab program just 2 months before his 23rd birthday in 1986.
God, pues entonces andaba desde chiquillo tomando.
Yeah, but I mean, by his early 20s, he was like, okay, I need to get it together.
Pues sí, güey, pero como quiera, like, wow.
Yeah.
So I wonder when his first drink was. ¿Te imaginas?
Imagínate. Or, drugs.
Drugs?
Yeah.
So or anything, any substance. Okay.
So by the time he met Debra in 1990, who was born in 1958 and was 6 years his senior, they were both in recovery programs, los dos.
A la madre.
Yeah.
Okay. They had that in common?
Yeah.
Okay.
They met while working out at a gym in Sudbury, Ontario. Now, Debra had a very bright personality and was very engaging and was always smiling. They hit it off right away and got married in 1991.
Oh, shit. Like, bien rapidito?
Yeah. Cuando they moved the teepee from Calgary.
Cuando movieron el teepee?
To Medicine Hat.
Oh, my God. I love the way how integrating our
the fun fact
to the story.
Yeah. So later, Wayne Chopek, I think is how you say his last name, who was a co-worker of Marc, he would later say, quote, "You can tell he settled down. He met Deb, and I think Deb may have changed his life and that he saw a different side of life with Deb. She was a primary focus of his life," end quote. Now, Debra would give birth to their first child, Jasmine, in October of 1993. Mm-hmm. El demonio.
Oh, shit.
3 years later, the family made the move to Okotoks, Alberta, from Sudbury, Ontario, for Marc's job. So he was in the oil and gas industry and was an instrumentation technician, but he didn't start in that position. Marc was very good with his hands, and he would go to like trade schools and just pick up different crafts, including welding. That was one of his first jobs. So Okotoks was a short 35-minute drive from Calgary, where the oil and gas industry was booming at the time. And a little side fun fact is that Calgary is known as the Houston of the North.
I was about to say that. Sounds like Houston.
Yeah.
I swear. I was about to say that. Yeah. I was about to say, wow, this sounds like Houston.
Yeah. So the move also came towards the end of Debra's second pregnancy. They had a baby boy and named him Jacob. And as time passed, they're kids, right? Like, I think about your kids, how they were when, growing up. That's how Jacob and Jasmine were. They got along great. Jasmine and Jacob were best of friends. They were always playing together. Jasmine adored him. And, sibling stuff,
because they were kind of the same age as difference in between my kids, too.
12 and 8.
Yeah,
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Like, I guess like about 4 years.
I mean, ahorita mi niña quiere matar a mi hijo, pero that's just because she's a teen. Oh, preteen. Well, she'll be a teen in a couple of days or a few weeks. But she wants to kill him. Like my sister was like, lo quiere madrear. Like, sí, lo quiere madrear siempre.
Yeah, and I think that's like regular preteen shit,
of course. Yeah.
So after the move, they were moving for, a better position or better job opportunities for Marc, but obviously things weren't like dandy right away. The Richardsons struggled financially.
I mean, I think that any move is going to be kind of difficult, right? Yeah. Because you're going to a whole new place. You don't know how.
Hoping to find something that's going to.
You used to go to H-E-B and now you go to Walmart. You know, like shit more is expensive and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So they lived in an older townhome, and Debra would go to the food bank for food, and she wasn't embarrassed or anything like that. She didn't give a fuck. She was like, whatever food I'm gonna get, I'm gonna try to make something for my kids that they're gonna enjoy, cookies, whatever. Nunca les faltaba comida, at least, So Debra would eventually have her own business later on, but at this time, she became a mentor and a sponsor at Narcotics Anonymous. and she spoke at meetings and shared her own journey.
Even though, like, because I'm pretty sure that it was more like a volunteer work.
Yeah.
And for her to do that, even though they were struggling, that's big of her.
Yeah,
that's
for
awesome.
sure. And then Mark's sister, también later would go on to say, quote, Marc and Debra devoted their lives to helping people get off drugs and alcohol.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to use a lot of quotes in this case because there's just like...
No, they were outspoken about the
people,
case. People wanted to talk about them.
I found a lot of information in this book. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
So a friend of the couple named Judith, whom they met through NA meetings, said about Debra and how she was always there for everyone. She said, quote, sometimes she would just call me up and say, don't need a phone call back. Just wanted to let you know that I love you until you love yourself.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds like me. I do that a lot.
Yeah. And then like her famous quote, I don't want to say a famous quote, but a quote that she would say and people knew her by, she would say, I love the bones and skin you're in.
I like that. Yeah. I'm going to start using that. I'm going to take that from her. I love the bones in your skin. That's kind of creepy a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, I can't just go around. Like, what if I texted you?
I love the bones and skin you're in.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I know why you're telling me that.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
But if I texted my other sister-in-law, she'd be like, ew. What the fuck are you talking about? My other sister-in-law, she's like that. She's a little...
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I just love you.
So as time passed, things progressed for the Richardson. They started looking up. Marc went back to school, a trade school, and was moving up at work. And they were able to move out of their old townhome and into a new condo. Not a new condo, but new to them, because they were moving out of an old place. So Debra at the time was doing home cleaning and they were just trying to save as much money as they could.
I feel like Debra here was a fucking bad bitch.
Yeah.
Like she's a baddie for sure.
And while they didn't have all the money in the world, they, like I just said earlier, they didn't ever go without, what the necessities. They made it work. Debra, they were like, she nurtured her family. She made sure no one ever felt left out. She would have little dates with Jacob, and then so dad, Marc, would have him with Jasmine.
I love that. I am big on that. Yeah. I really do feel like that's a big thing because your mom always, like, I know that it's always because my kids, well, we go back to the same thing, I'm sorry, but my kids, like, my son is really attached to my husband. Like, he loves my husband very much because my husband is more like, they're both really smart, so they both talk about smart shit that I'm like,
and say perhaps.
And say perhaps, and I'm all like talking stupid shit, talking about like my favorite color's pink. So, but my daughter and I get along so well, but sometimes I don't put the same attention that I do to my daughter than my son. So I sometimes have to remind myself, hey, so sometimes I'll just let's go to the store or whatever it is. And I just let them ramble or whatever. Yeah. And then, pero it's so important.
Yeah.
It is so important.
So she would do that. And then Jasmine, wherever she would go with her dad, with Marc, she would dress up and all that kind of stuff. So every weekend they did things together as a family. They had motorbikes and they would just take the kids riding and,
so they had a good family life.
Yeah. Their neighbors in Okotoks had nothing but great things to say about them. A woman named Gail, who lived next door to them for 3 years, said, quote, Marc and Deb treated each other and their kids with respect and love that most people would envy. I sure did. And all the time I shared a wall with them, I never once heard a harsh word spoken, end quote.
That's awesome.
And también another former neighbor, his name was Bob, or is, I'm not sure. He said, quote, they were the family we all wished we had. Debra was the cement who built a pleasant, happy home, and Marc's only plan in life was to do right by his family. I lived vicariously through those parents and really admired their devotion to family.
Wow, for someone else to say these things, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want nobody to be my neighbor. Because, girl, I'll be talking shit to them kids. Girl, levanta tu pinche mugrero. Like, they know that once I start speaking in Spanish, it's over.
It's on. Like it's Donkey Kong. Yeah. And then they're like, wait, can you slow down? Why are you speaking so fast? I don't know what you're telling me.
Cállese el hocico que le estoy hablando. And I'm like, bro, I just go off. So whoever my neighbor, I'm so sorry, sir.
I don't think they can hear you. No. You don't share walls.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'll be like, bro, más vale que vengas a recoger ese pinche marranero que tienes aquí.
Te dije que sacaras el perro para afuera.
No le diste de comer. Mira, se está muriendo de hambre. Yeah, so I feel, but that's awesome that somebody would say something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody strives to be good parents, you know? But for someone else to see that and actually recognize it, that's
and
pretty
say,
awesome.
I live vicariously through them.
Those are big words.
Yeah, those are big words.
Yeah.
Now, in September 2003, Marc again went back to school, took courses in electrical engineering, and was promoted at work. he was working for a large Canadian oil and gas company called Encana Corp. And his promotion meant that the family would have to move. Encana Corp paid for the Richardsons to move from Okotoks to Medicine Hat, where Marc would take on the crucial role of instrument technician at the company's natural gas storage.
Oh my God, he had like a big job.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, he worked himself up from the ground.
That's amazing.
Like he,
Remind everyone that he was someone that was struggling with substance abuse. They both were.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's take a quick break. Persons of Interest is back, and it's bigger than ever.
That scream will echo in my head for many years.
Taser! 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 He's gonna shoot!
Oi! Shot fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Stay out! You got a gun on you!
He had the perfect aim.
I am absolutely stressed at that point. I have no idea where my officers are.
Persons of Interest available everywhere you get your podcasts.
So Medicine Hat, like I mentioned earlier, I think I said from Calgary, but my bad. It was actually 3 hours from Okotoks. The family was able to purchase a 1,014 square foot 4-level split home in the suburbs.
Yes.
And they had like bike paths, which they would like to go on. The home had a fenced yard, a nice deck, and they didn't have to fucking share walls with anybody, you know?
Qué buena onda. That's so cool.
Now the family would go on to have like barbecues in the summer, on summer nights, and would go on rides with their motorcycles to, there was a national park close by. I think it was Dinosaur Provincial Park. So they would like all the nature stuff, you know? Allá se pasaban.
Qué padre.
So both Jasmine and Jacob were excited, you know, to have this yard. And there was this big ass tree in their yard. They now had like a little, I don't know if the tree came with the tree house, but had like a little tree house type of fort type of thing. And it had a swing.
You know what? I'm going to talk about this tree house real quick. I've never wanted a tree house.
I did.
I have always been so terrified that my big self would get on a treehouse y que la iba a quebrar. I'm sorry. I've just never wanted a treehouse. Like, y que va, like, no.
It's a hangout spot, you know?
I know, it's cool, but not me personally.
Okay.
Not me personally.
Maybe
no.
at the bottom of the tree?
Maybe at the bottom, like a little casita.
Yeah.
You know, al ir abajo.
Yeah.
Sí. Maybe, ¿sabes qué? Si quiero una hamaca. Eso sí, like, I have an hamaca right here, and I've been wanting to put it up, but I haven't been able to.
But maca and treehouse, different things, bitch.
Yes, I know, bitch, but that's a...
But it's on the tree?
But it's...
You have to connect it to a
Not
tree?
only is it on the tree, but it could also be a hangout spot, if you all fit. But...
Not everybody's going to fit.
Wow.
Is your maca that big?
I don't know, but let me tell you, I've just never wanted a treehouse.
Okay.
I'm scared. Tengo miedo como a la madre. I'm sorry.
But they were super excited. I mean, they're kids.
Yeah.
You know? And Jacob would, like, squeeze in playtime in the mornings before school to go and play in the backyard.
That is so cool.
Yeah, se subía up the treehouse to a little fort, or se ponía a jugar, like, ball hockey. He was a growing kid and had a shit ton of energy, bitch, you know?
Yeah.
Joyful, exuberant. He loved hockey.
Not exuberant.
Girl, I'm trying to
Spell exuberant.
EXUBERANT.
Without looking right.
I'm trying to expand my vocab in 2024.
Okay, girl, work.
He loved hockey and liked to play, you know, as kid shit. Se ponía a jugar así, like, pretend lightsabers, like he was a Jedi and shit, Star Wars, you know?
My son. Y no le vayan a dar una gun, porque he shoots everybody. Una pinche un palo. Psh, psh. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he plays with, he plays with anything. He can play with grass,
remember
sticks
that one
outside.
time? Remember that one time that he had the fly swatter and he said he was playing the Krusty Krab?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was SpongeBob flipping the Krusty.
patties.
Yeah, so I mean, when those kids at that age, imagination, yeah.
So teachers at school refer to Jacob as the class clown. In his kindergarten yearbook, he wrote, quote, "This really made me sad. Like, I wanted to cry when I was reading it. I want to cry right now." He wrote, quote, "When I grow up, I want to be a policeman or a soldier." He also wrote, quote, "The thing I like best about me is that I have a family and I'm very fast."
He is very fast, and he does have a family.
But he wouldn't make it past 8.
Oh, wow. So sad.
His fucking sister.
Die, motherfucking Jasmine.
Now, and it was weird. like for
How
a long.
many episodes have we had that you've cried? It's been like 3 in a row already.
I don't know. It's just making me sad. I mean, when I was doing research for this, not that anybody gives a shit, but I was PMSing, so I definitely did cry. But like, it's really sad to think about, you know?
Yeah.
Now that they were in a better financial place, Debra was able to start her at-home business, as I mentioned earlier. She opened a small holistic therapy studio. Debra was very into, she didn't follow your typical type of religion, like whatever, Christianity. She was very into native spirituality. Mm-hmm. She was captivated by their ceremonies and their medicines, and she always kept a dream catcher and near the wall that led to the bedrooms of the family. So she was very into that sort of thing. So she ran the studio out of the lower level of her home.
Yeah.
And then she even, like, to make sure, I'm telling you, bitch, like we just said, she's a bad bitch. Like, to make sure
she is a bad bitch.
She was on top of it. She was taking entrepreneur courses to make sure she ran her business, knew she was getting into. I mean,
girl, yes. Like, she was on all the snaps for her, for sure. Yes.
So when the Richardsons made the move to Medicine Hat, Jasmine was just about to turn 10 and she was going into 5th grade. For all intents and purposes, I guess you can say she was your regular 10-year-old little girl. And her room and the new home reflected that, I guess you can say. I mean, for regular little girls, I don't know what the rooms look like, but she decorated with a lot of stuffed animals, bunnies, and she had kitties, bears, a monkey, a unicorn. She had like a canopy over her little bed.
Emma said that her whole life, that's what she wanted, was a canopy. I'm like, who do you think you are, Princess Diana? Like, you didn't need a fucking canopy. No, pero it's because that's all she wanted all her life. I'm like, okay, girl. She's like, I didn't give it to her, so I'm horrible.
Yeah.
I'm horrible. I didn't buy her a canopy. That's all she wanted. I'm like, okay.
She had shelves, she had little books, she had girly stuff laying around, She's a little girl.
Shopkins.
So while Deb was
busy,
while Deb was like into native spirituality, Marc was raised Catholic.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if this had anything to do with it, but Jasmine attended a Catholic school. And she was described as studious. She was an honor student, was in her school.
So they both, sorry to interrupt you. So they both didn't go to the same school?
Who?
The Jacob and Jasmine?
I think she was older, so I don't think so.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because you said she was in the 5th grade and he was in kinder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not now, because, when this takes place, he was 8.
Oh, okay.
And she was 12. So I guess she was already in middle school.
No, that makes sense. Okay, sorry.
I don't know how it looks like in Canada.
Yeah, I have no idea how their school system is. Yeah.
So she was in her school's music and art programs. She was quiet, gentle, and kind. That's how people described her. She and one of her best friends, her name was Audrey, would spend every weekend at each other's houses. I mean, they'd watch movies, fix their hair, se lo peinaban, they'd hang out at the mall, walk to the 7-Eleven and got Slurpees, very preteen things.
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like Debra, Jasmine kind of became interested in crystals, in meditation, very spiritual. And this led her to become interested in Wicca, which is an independent practice. And according to Brandeis...
Wicca? Like como Wicked?
You've never heard of Wicca?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. It's because I watched Charmed. It's because you need to watch Charmed. Wait.
No, I mean, I watched Charmed a little bit, but not like hardcore like you.
Yeah. So according to Brandeis University, I know people like assume Wicca is like witchcraft, No,
that's not what I assumed. I literally assumed that it was, when I heard you say Wicca, I thought you were going to say Wikipedia. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. So,
according to Brandeis University, the religion differentiates itself from the mainstream religions such as Christianity by celebrating a goddess as well as a god. Wicca lacks a formal institutional structure such as a church, putting more emphasis on ritual and direct spiritual experiences than belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a little bit of sense.
So it's like the basis of
Okay.
It's an independent practice, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as I just mentioned, Jasmine attended a Catholic school, and it was while her discovering an independent practice and kind of, getting into different things.
I think that's pretty cool for someone that young to be able to make those kind of decisions, because my daughter would never tell me I'm going to be a Wiccan,
No, yeah.
I would be like, no, the fuck you're not. You're going to be a regular person, you know? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying, like, I would be like, no, you're not making that decision on your own, you know, whatever. But that's cool that she was able, or she knew enough to say, okay, this is what I want to do.
And I think, you know, her parents obviously, especially Debra, very open-minded, you know? I mean,
definitely. I mean, I think I'm pretty open-minded, but I don't know about no wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying she just became interested. You know, she's looking it up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was while her discovering an independent practice that Jasmine kind of began to question, and her friends, it wasn't just her, the religion that they were being taught in school.
The Catholic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was also during this time that the girls began to gravitate towards the local goth crowd at Medicine Hat Mall, donde se pasaban. They were dressed in black. You know, they wore eyeliner, you know, black nail polish, dyed their hair black, and sometimes even more. They wore like white face makeup. So the girls themselves began wearing a little more black to school. También. Nothing too extreme. This would later change, of course, but right now it was just, like I said, nothing too extreme. At first, Jasmine just wore like a choker and like merch from her new favorite metal band, which was just literally an oversized black hoodie. I mean, that's nothing.
All the kids wear oversized hoodies. Like, you should see the kids that go to school. Like, I'm like, that's how y'all come to school? Like,
yeah, my nieces, I'm like...
Yeah, like one of my nieces and my nephew, he's like... I'm like, you don't wash it? Like,
in the summer?
In the summer.
I'm like, it's 110 degrees.
Que huelen acá abajo. Like, imagine your armpits.
Did you put in the order?
Like, girl. I'm like, no, you're not. And then...
But I guess earlier in, like, the mid-2000s.
And it is, yeah. But, I mean, it would be weird. But now, like, they go in Crocs and shit. Like, when would... in the joggers, like, beaches. Like, if you would go in sweats...
to wear fucking uniform and shit.
Yeah. No, we didn't wear uniform. Pero, if you would go dressed like that, they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what the hell, you didn't even try?
No, I didn't.
No. Pero... You know, it was a big deal back then because that's when you would show off your fits. Your fits.
Yeah.
Y acá estos no van como pinches locos.
So yes, like I just said, she, you know, began listening to new metal music. And while the lyrics may have been dark and maybe even a little bit violent, Jasmine didn't see them that way. She just saw them as being expressive and letting your feelings out, you know? So as the young girls got more into goth, the distance between them and the rest of their school peers began to grow. It got to the point where they were referred to as the quote-unquote bad.
Why?
Exactly. One of the girls, I can't remember, she had like a couple of friends that were named. I don't know if it was Nora or Audrey. Later went on to say that they're like, we weren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they were just judging us by the way that we were dressing in black, which is kind of stupid.
It's really stupid because that literally you go in my closet and all of my clothes is black.
Yeah, I'm trying to put some color in my wardrobe.
No, I'm not. I love it. Oh well. This is how I am. I can't help it.
Do I want another black sweater? I need to stop.
Yes. No, literally, like, we'll go and get dressed and I will go upstairs right now, get dressed, and I'm wearing black. And then my husband will come out and we all leave in black. Like, what's wrong with us? They're going to think we're fucking goth too.
Yeah. No, but obviously goth is not just, you know.
No, of course not. Yeah, but, you know, and then, I mean, you know, people do judge the way you dress, look. So then imagine, like, all of my kids. And then
doing that when you're that little, like, in school, and you're like, I'm not doing anything.
I don't think, because in their mind, they didn't probably connect both of them. Like, to them, it was just like, I'm just wearing what I like. Yeah. You know? And when people start putting names onto shit, like, oh, now you're dressing goth, or now it's bad, and they're like, what do you mean I'm bad? It's just the way I like to like, I like this outfit.
I like this,
you know? Yeah.
So it's the fact that they were kind of being shunned, I guess you could say. The girls became like a little tighter knit in their little group, which consisted of Jasmine, Audrey, Nora, and 2 more girls, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously what I've said so far is what we're learning here is that it wasn't just Jasmine.
It was more than
going through this or getting into the goth scene, but would only be Jasmine that would go on to plan and participate in the murders of her family.
I don't know how to think about that.
Unlike her friends, Jasmine reached puberty early and was more developed, which a friend of Debra's would later say that Debra told her that it was something that Jasmine struggled with and she felt very self-conscious.
Yeah, because they don't want their bodies to change.
And like, you're like, why do I look different than my friends?
Yes, why do I look different? And they go through a thing, because I know a lot of the times, a lot of children that I've known, that they go through it a little bit earlier than others, and then they feel awkward.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going through this and they're not? So I could understand where she was coming from with that.
And she was only 11, Barbie, but she could easily pass for 15 or 16. When you see a picture of her, I'll show you one. And it literally is like she skipped the whole awkward stage of like from preteen to teenagers. Now, research shows that girls who reach puberty early are at risk of delinquency and aggressive behavior. And they are more likely to become depressed, socially withdrawn, moody, and sexually active. And Jasmine began to exhibit some of those traits in the summer of 2005. For the rest of the year, she began joining many social networking sites for the most part, and she would list herself as older.
Yeah, because she looked older.
Yeah. So she first joined mindviz.com on August 27, 2005, which is a website for quote-unquote heavy teen content.
What's heavy teen content?
I don't know. Where you could add people as friends, people could message you, chat and shit, networking shit, you know?
Como like now that we have like Facebook and shit. Or, yeah, like that. Okay.
And on her profile, she described herself as, quote, bisexual, single, and with a dog. And in her profile picture, she had dark eye makeup, straight hair, black hair, and she was holding a fake gun while pointing it at the ceiling, making her look way older than her 11 years.
She was 11.
Because she was still 11 because she wouldn't turn 12 into October.
Pero yo tengo una pregunta, pero bien rapidito. ¿Dónde está su mamá y su papá?
Look, Barb, I thought that too, but then I was doing shit I wasn't supposed to, and my parents had no idea about either.
No, but definitely, I understand that. But I mean, oh, wow. She looks like Avril Lavigne.
Yeah?
Yeah, she does. But she does not look 11. But she kind of does a little bit. Pero not.
No, because I feel like I've told you about her, but if you just looked at her.
No, she doesn't look 11, guys. She's literally wearing all black, and she
looks, what, 15, 16, right?
Yeah, she looks 15, 16.
And the next website that she joined, I think we all know it, all of the ladies.
MySpace.
Yeah. Now, on MindViz, she had enlisted her age, but on MySpace, she listed it as 16. And her username was X_madness_X. She noted, like, you know how you could list your interests, bitch?
She's 11, remember.
I don't remember what the fuck I had on my MySpace page anymore, and I don't want to. But her interest, I'm only going to name a few of what she listed on her interests. Hatchets, serial killers.
Oh, wow.
Criminal psychology, blood, moonlight, human anatomy, and kinky shit.
She's 11.
Exactly.
What do you know about kinky shit?
For her heroes, she listed Jeffrey Dahmer.
Wow.
Batman, Chris Angel, Marilyn Manson, and a heavy metal artist named Danny Filth, who founded her favorite band, Cradle of Filth, which we'll get to Cradle of Filth a little bit later too, but yeah.
11. Okay.
In the fall of, maybe even 12 by this point, but in the fall of 2005, when she returned to school for 7th grade, the faculty noticed a big change in Jasmine. Whereas before she was quiet and they said that nothing really stood out about her. Now she was wearing dark makeup and dressing differently. Her skirts were getting shorter. She began wearing fishnet stockings, spiked collars, black mesh tops. So Marc and Debra were contacted about the way that Jasmine was dressing now at school, but they weren't too concerned about it. I personally think that they just saw it as her expressing herself. And I mean, her conduct wasn't bad, or it's not like her grades were dropping, you know? So they just like, I mean, she just looked different than she did before, but other than that, she was...
No, but sometimes the teachers do kind of get concerned, like, ¿qué pasó?
Right.
Si estabas de esta manera y luego empiezas, ¿está pasando algo?
Yeah.
No, like, they do get concerned. I mean, they see our kids sometimes more than we do. Yeah.
Now, at the Medicine Hat Mall, instead of just admiring the local goth crew, Jasmine and her friends began to befriend them.
So Jasmine and her friends, they all had these things. Like,
yes.
Todas tenían estas, Ideas, pero like, they all had like profiles and all of that, just like her. Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just her.
No, it wasn't just her. So Jasmine in particular took to two guys, a 19-year-old who would go by the name of Raven, and another one who went by Trenchcoat, who was believed to be 20.
Wow. Trench coat.
Now, Jasmine never disclosed her real age to her new friends. I'm sure they knew she was young, but they just didn't know how young she was. Not that age was really like anything that mattered to them. According to a 14-year-old girl who was part of the scene, she said, quote, "Our group of friends doesn't discriminate based on age. It's just a number. Most of us have very alike backgrounds, so we get along perfectly. It's just friendship," end quote. You know, that I guess that's okay, but I wouldn't let my 12-year-old, 11-year-old daughter hang out with the 20-year-old.
With trench coat. I'm sorry. Trench coat, I'm not going to let you hang around with her because you're 20 and my daughter is 11. And
what do you guys have in common?
Backgrounds of what? Like, what has Jasmine done that has background of?
No, I just mean like they both come from like the suburbs and they're just trying to, you know, that type of stuff.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, what has she done? It's like whenever you tell somebody you are not a gangster.
Yeah.
Like you're not.
Remember that, you know, when that comes to my mind, Malibu, the movie Malibu's Most Wanted.
Yes. Like, stop acting like that. You're not. But I mean, and I get it. Like sometimes it's not
you just
really
want to
fit in. Yeah. And I get that. But the thing is, like, fit in with 11-year-olds. You don't have to fit in with trench coat. That's 20.
And Raven.
So
her birthday came and went. She was now 12. As I mentioned earlier, she would go on to join more websites. And on November 10th, she signed up for another one called VampireFreaks.com.
Not Vampire Freaks, Estela.
As she had done before, she didn't list her real age. She instead listed it as 15. And her
Still, why are you at 15 on vampires? What is it? Freaky Vampires?
VampireFreaks.com.
Yeah.
So her online username was X/Killer/Kitty X. And the pictures that
Not the Kitty X, please.
And the pictures that she updated were those of herself looking way older than she really was.
Always.
On November 26th, she joined Sorpia.com. Not sure what she listed her age as, and her username on this was Runaway Devil. And it was around the same time, towards that end of the year, that Jasmine began dating a 16-year-old boy named Devin Weenas, I think is how you say his last name. Now, I'm not sure how they met. I think maybe it might have been through his job, because I think he worked at a pancake house. So maybe it was through that they met.
Pancakes sound good.
They do. Devin would go on to say that he didn't know how old Jasmine was.
No, of course, because she would lie on, like, at this point now she's lying on everything, you know?
And he thought she was in grade 9, so I'm assuming she must have at least been 14 or 15.
Yeah. But she's 12.
She's 12. But they wouldn't date for long. But while they were seeing each other, Debra found out, and she was like, hey, I need to meet this boy. So she met with both of them, and they sat down and everything. And again, Devin would later say that Debra was really nice, and she just was being protective of her daughter, but that she just seemed really open-minded, you know? But Jasmine was embarrassed by the whole thing. She didn't like that her mom was asking Devin questions.
Yeah, because she's 12.
Yeah.
You know, like, what the hell?
So to avoid any future embarrassing sit-downs, according to Jasmine, she decided to sneak around behind her parents' back with Devin. They would go to the movies.
But Devin didn't even care.
She's 12.
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
Devin was like...
Your mom's cool, I guess.
Mom's cool, I guess.
Going to the movies, they would hang out at the mall. And like I said, they didn't last long. I think it was like even maybe a month. And that was because Devin no le gustaba que Jasmine was hanging out with older guys and was closer to them than to him.
So Devin was a good kid.
Yeah. Raven, and which were the guys were...
With trench coat.
And Raven, yeah.
Yeah.
He was jealous. I mean, I get it. My guy, like, if my boyfriend was like, I have friends, they're older girls, and, you know...
And it's trench coat.
Yeah.
I just can't get over this guy's name is trench coat.
That's not his name. That's what he would go by.
But who in the... Maybe because he always wore a trench coat.
Yeah.
But who in the hell would... I mean, I don't know.
Okay. I kind of... Now, like, I get it. I'm like, oh, he's trench coat, you know, like...
No.
Not that we know much about trench coat. I'm sure he was a nice person, you know?
So why would Raven be called Raven? Because he was...
Black hair?
Because he was a raven?
Yeah, maybe because he...
No.
So...
Get better nicknames.
Devin was jealous, especially since Jasmine would refer to Raven as her soulmate.
What?
And he would, like, sometimes... Not... I don't know how many times...
Mind you, Raven's 19.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he one time came up to them and they were like hugging and stuff. So Devin told Jasmine, like, if she couldn't confide in him the way that she did with Raven.
And Trench Coat?
I think it was mostly Raven.
Oh, okay.
Then they were needed to be done. So they stopped seeing each other, and Jasmine was not really heartbroken over it. On the next site that Jasmine joined, which was Nexopia, on December 28th, she began to reveal more of herself than she had previously in other sites, I guess you could say. Again, her name on here was Runaway Devil and listed her age as 15. And she wrote, quote, I am the almighty Jax, because she wrote it as Jaxc. Bow down. I think deep dots. I am quite emotional and my mood is ever changing, although I can be very good at hiding my feelings. I don't trust easily, which I was like,
same girl.
You're 12.
Same girl. She's 12. Who does she have to trust?
Besides her parents.
Besides her parents.
I either have a lot of energy or very little. I like to make attempts at poetry and anime, and I make wookie noises and often scare small children. I am afraid of llamas. Who's afraid of llamas? I mean, I guess people can be afraid of llamas.
No, they spit at you.
Yeah. Often I am loud and bounce a lot. Other people live in my head with me. I like to pretend I'm a gangster sometimes. Don't worry, I am not. And as for her dislikes, she wrote, she listed, quote, homophobia, same. Sexism, same. Hypocrites, okay, I get it. Public transportation, bunnies, llamas, and small children as a dislike.
So she did not like homophobes,
hypocrites, public transportation, bunnies, llamas, and small children.
Wow. Oh, Lord.
And for the most part, I guess I get it because, yeah, I know people exaggerate in those type of profiles.
Yeah,
you know, like, I get it.
Definitely. Like catfish and shit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And especially people that are that young, I think creating those type of profiles are just trying to come off like harder and like cool and like I'm older and, you know, that kind of thing. But in Jasmine's case, maybe she wasn't exaggerating.
Maybe she really did not like kids.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And because of what she came to do with Jeremy, who by December 2005 was already in her life and they were already casually seeing each other.
How did she meet Jeremy?
We're about to get into that. So Jeremy Allen Steinke,
not the stanky leg,
at the time of today's case was a 23-year-old high school dropout. 23?
Oh, hell
He lived
no.
in a trailer park with his mom in Medicine Hat. And unlike Jasmine, who from what we know had a pretty good upbringing.
Yes, her parents worked really hard.
Yeah. Jeremy's was the complete opposite. So Jeremy was born on January 15th, 1983, and according to his mother, Jacqueline May, and Jeremy himself, he was abused by his dad, who was an alcoholic. And while his mom abused alcohol as well, there's no report that says that she participated in any like sort of abuse towards Jeremy. Jeremy's dad would come home drunk pretty much every day and would whip him with the belt and sometimes would just drag him by the ear to his room. And when Jeremy was 2, his parents actually split up. And there was, I guess you could say, a little bit of reprieve from the abuse for a little bit. But his parents ended up getting back together. And then it was then that his mom, Jacqueline, became pregnant with their second child, a baby girl who was born when Jeremy was 4. And the couple would later go on their separate ways for good after about, I think, 7 years. Jeremy would still see his dad from time to time, but it was nothing stable, really. And according to him, it was literally like every other summer or every other Christmas. Mm-hmm. So Jeremy would go from one abusive male parent to another because Jacqueline's second husband wasn't much different than her first. He was described as a quote-unquote weekend drinker and had 3 kids of his own. So I guess obviously they had a blended family.
So he didn't drink every day. He only would drink Saturday and Sunday.
Según, pues. Así that's what they would call him. So it was 5 kids, you know, because Jacqueline had 2 and he already had 3. And when one of the kids did something wrong and no one would outright say who had done it or actually tell the truth, according to Jacqueline, he'd line all of them up, all 5 of them, and swat their hands with a paint stick until somebody said what happened.
But they're kids. Jeez Louise, man.
And when she tried to intervene, she'd get pushed around and yelled at también. So Jeremy does go on to say that his mom didn't really know the like the real abuse that happened. And he would say that his stepfather would tie them to chairs and watch as he like either physically abused the other kids.
Wow. But those were his own kids también.
He did it to all of them.
To all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that that's, I mean, but.
He didn't discriminate.
I'm not trying to say that's a good thing,
but that's fucked up. He didn't, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So that marriage failed as well. And then there was a third, very much like the first two, which involved abuse towards Jeremy and Jacqueline. They don't talk about the little sister, but I'm sure it was towards her too. She later testified that her third husband once pushed Jeremy into a deep freezer, which caused him to hit his head. In another instance where Jeremy tried to defend his mother during a domestic dispute, the husband grabbed Jeremy by the neck and gave him uppercuts to the face and the back of the head.
Wow.
That marriage also ended, but the bad choices in men continued. In the form of boyfriends, and where there was no lack of domestic violence. Jeremy didn't only have it bad at home, but also at school. Dude, I felt so bad for him at this point, because he's little, where he was like relentlessly bullied when he was very young.
Kids are dicks, dude.
Jacqueline said that when he was in 3rd grade, like he came home in the middle of the day because it was that bad.
Wow.
Yeah. The kids would call him Stinky because of his last name instead of Stanky. And even teachers would do it. Yeah. How fucked up is that?
That happens.
That's fucked up.
But it happens. It happens every day. Like my daughter has a problem with that all the time, where they make fun of her last name and then they'll like, they'll start all laughing. And it's like, it's not that bad, Yeah. But it's like, they're like, oh, we can't say it. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
And she feels bad about it. And then, whatever. But I mean, it happens.
And then Jacqueline said that she tried to talk to people in charge, but that nobody would listen to her. So it was hard for Jeremy, obviously, to make friends. They probably
wouldn't listen to her because she was like not stable herself,
It was hard. Obviously, it was hard for Jeremy to make friends. But it was also because they were never in one place for too long, because she, from relationship to relationship, they would jump. She would jump, I'm sorry. Jeremy began using alcohol and drugs in his early teen years, and it started with weed. And through the years, he did ecstasy. He also tried acid and mushrooms. And according to Jacqueline, Jeremy's daily weed use actually made him easier to live with. He was calm and not so hyper. Now, I'm not sure if he was actually ever diagnosed by a professional, but Jacqueline says that Jeremy had ADHD.
Oh, he had tendencies. Okay.
Yeah. It was also during his teen years. I guess it was really bad, and he tried to hang himself.
Oh, wow.
And it was described as a half-hearted effort. So Jacqueline went on to say that, Jeremy would tell her in various different ways that, he wished he hadn't been born, and that, he wished he wasn't alive. So I guess since he fully couldn't go through with the suicide, he just completely tried to like self-destruct in other ways. He sometimes drank himself into like oblivion, Barbie. When he was 15, he was so intoxicated, or he got so intoxicated outside, que ahí se quedó, se durmió, and then he passed out, and he had to get hospitalized for hypothermia.
Oh, wow.
And he also, I guess, in a way to start dealing with everything or cope, he started cutting. Mm-hmm. And he would mostly do it on his arms, when he was alone in his room, and afterward he would wrap his arms in gauze and like wear long sleeve shirts so nobody could see, to cover it up. And I guess while Jeremy was having a really hard time in school with his peers in classes, he seemed to maybe have found something that he enjoyed, I guess, at school. When he was in the 10th grade, he was placed in a program in school for students with learning difficulties called Integrated Occupational Program. And he studied woodworking and mechanics. And I guess for a little bit, it kind of at least just kept his focus and his hands were busy. He also joined the Medicine Hat football team, the Mohawks. And while he worked hard during the practices, his time on the team wouldn't last very long tampoco, because he would pick fights in the locker room. And it was like he was asking to get picked on. Like he wanted that attention, even if it was fucked up attention, but it was attention.
Yeah.
And then when people would respond and, come at him, he would run. And he would run to like an adult for protection or to hide behind,
I mean, that just sounds like typical kid with needing attention and just in general, like you said, poor thing.
So Jeremy had enough of high school and dropped out in the 10th grade. Not only could he not concentrate, but also wanted to help Jacqueline out, his mom, since she had been diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which is scarring of the lungs. And it is a progressive and ultimately terminal disease. Now, in her case, it had no known cause.
Wow.
Yeah. And which is, I actually found that out. That's what idiopathic means. So, quien sabe. After dropping out, he went on to live and work with his dad at a mine in Sacagawea, but that also wouldn't last very long. He moved out after a disagreement with his stepmom. And then he moved in with friends into low-income apartments and just kind of worked low-paying jobs that he hated for the following years. I want to say that at one point he came to like a brief realization that if he wanted a better job, he needed to get a better education, because he did end up enrolling at Medicine Hat College in 2004, I guess, to take classes to finish high school.
His GED, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm assuming that didn't follow, that like no terminó eso tampoco. He didn't finish that. He also tried to do some trade work to be able to work in the oil fields, but for the most part, couldn't hold on a job. He spent his days drinking, smoking weed, playing guitar, writing poetry and lyrics to songs that he didn't even ever finish either. He had run-ins with the law, but just kind of like petty shit. Nothing that ever like warranted any jail time. But the police knew him on sight. They were like, oh, that's Jeremy.
Yeah, they're already like, oh, we know who you are.
We know you. And it was in the summer of 2005 that 22-year-old Jeremy began to, quote unquote, go goth again. According to Jeremy, he and his friend, or a friend of his named Grant Bolt, had tried that lifestyle when they were 13 or 14. But at the time, the community wasn't as prominent as it was now or then. When they tried it back then, they were being harassed because, I mean, it wasn't
early on.
Yeah,
it wasn't something that would happen, you know.
So they stopped pursuing it.
Okay.
So Jeremy began to wear, again, black jeans, dark t-shirts, leather coats, and eyeliner, and got into metal music. And his favorite band was Cradle of Filth. Sound familiar? And Grant, his friend, said, quote, he wanted a new crowd, and they accepted him.
Just like as he was.
Yeah. Now, Cradle of Filth was noted to be one of the most sophisticated bands in their genre. Their music themes were influenced by mythology, horror films, vampirism, and lycanthropy, which Jeremy was a big fan of, especially any Lycan mythology. Lycan means someone who can transform into a werewolf at will. And that type of culture, like the whole vampire thing and the Lycans, the werewolves at that time, was popular due to the Underworld movies.
Oh, like Jacob? Like Jacob from like...
No, that's Twilight. I'm talking about Underworld. You never saw Underworld with Kate Beckinsale?
Hell no.
No mames.
No, güey, yo estaba haciendo otras mamadas.
Now, Jeremy himself would claim that he was a werewolf. He thought it was cool and would go with his new persona. And he'd write poems about it. He seemed like he was decent at poetry, I'm not gonna lie. He'd write poems about his werewolf fantasies. And he even used to tell like friends of his and like other acquaintances that they better not be out when there was a full moon because he might tear them from limb to limb and eat them.
Yes, that sounds great. That's exactly what I'm gonna go and tell my friends.
It was after he became re-immersed in this new goth culture that he and his friends, or at least the few that he had, began to drift apart. And he found it easier to make friends with the younger goth kids who looked up to him. You know, he was older, he was able to buy alcohol, he had a car, and they had his respect for whatever reason, you know? Now, Morgan, a 14-year-old who was part of the goth community, also described him as, quote, sweet, caring, and loud. And he would do anything if it meant he would do anything if it meant someone would love him.
Oh, poor thing.
It's sad.
It is sad.
Now, it would be 13-year-old Kylie, who was part of the también local goth community who hung out at the mall. And she went to school with Jasmine también, who would formally introduce Jeremy and Jasmine shortly after her 12th birthday. And I say formally because they had actually hung out before. On a previous occasion, Jasmine and another friend had gone on a joyride in Jeremy's car, but I don't think, bitch, it was a really you know what? Joyride is a bad word because all they did was he did donuts in the mosque parking lot, and they were in the backseat.
Wow.
And the girls, yeah. And so...
But they weren't introduced. But she got in the car.
Yes. There was no formal introductions.
Wow. Okay.
So one day, Kylie, Jasmine, and a few other girls were walking around at the mall when she saw Jeremy. Because you could always find one of them at the mall. One of the local...
Because the mall was a high... Well,
yeah,
the place to be,
you know?
Yeah.
So Kylie ran up to him and she screamed out his name. She's like, Jeremy! You know, like, hi! Mm-hmm. And she, you know, they hugged each other. And after they, you know, the embrace finished, she turned and she said, these are my friends, and introduced the girls and then Jasmine at the end. And of that official introduction, Jasmine would later say, quote, we just hung out for the day. I wanted to be friends with him. He was really hyper and the center of attention. People loved him, end quote. Mm-hmm. And that's where we'll end today's episode.
What?
Yeah.
Not the part 2.
Yes, there'll be a part 2. It's just so much to this that I was like, I can't do this.
This is a complete surprise to me, guys. I really had no idea that we were going to have a part 2.
Yeah, but that's just going to give you like where everybody was at, where everybody came from, and how they met, and then we'll get to part 2 where how everything happened and came to be. So,
wow.
But it's just...
Yeah, this is just so crazy. Like, I know that we always say that, but literally every case, you're like, it can't get worse, and it gets worse.
It's just, for me, I think personally, and later, I'm sure I'll probably reiterate the same thing in the next episode, but like, we understand the other child killers that we've heard, you know, Mary Bell, you know, she grew up really bad. Sharon Carr grew up really bad.
Yeah.
And we do have other children like the Liskey family murders. BJ murdered his family, but he wasn't mentally well. Or the Van Breda, you know, wanted to con el machete, tried to kill his family, but he was older. But she's 12.
Yeah. Like,
and where did she come from?
Like, you're trying to like make sense of it, but you can't make sense. Yeah. Because there was no reason.
Jeremy, I understand. Not only say understand Jeremy, but I mean, like, he had a shitty childhood, you know. He fucking took uppercuts to the face.
All of that.
He tried to commit suicide, you know, like, pero ella, I think me da más coraje con ella.
Yeah, because there was no reason. And this is your family that you loved, according to you, you know, and you're going to go off and... Anyway, well, we won't know until next week.
Yes.
But thank you so much for that, sister.
So if you guys would like to follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at
Cafecito and Crime Pod.
Also, if you would like to download our episodes, we'd appreciate it. Please. You would like to rate us, leave us a review, please. All that fun, nice stuff.
And thank you so much for everyone that supports us. And I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever, and keep warm.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.